Good evening, dear listener. Welcome to tonight's bedtime story. Join Thomas as he embarks on an enchanting journey in the fairy flower garden, discovering the magic and wisdom hidden within. Let the soothing tales of talking flowers and brave heroes guide you into a peaceful and restful slumber. Sweet dreams await. Chapter 1. The Discovery. Thomas had always been a curious boy. The forest near his home was his playground, a place where he could let his imagination run wild. One bright summer morning, with the sun casting golden beams through the leafy canopy, Thomas set out on another adventure. As he wandered deeper into the woods, he stumbled upon a path he had never noticed before. Overgrown with moss and flanked by ancient trees, the path seemed to beckon him forward. With a heart full of excitement, Thomas followed the trail. The air grew cooler, and the sounds of the forest hushed, as if the very trees were holding their breath. He pushed through a dense thicket and gasped. Before him lay a garden, hidden away from the world, a place of such beauty that it took his breath away. Flowers of every hue imaginable bloomed in profusion. Their petals glistened as if kissed by dew, even though the sun was high in the sky. There were daisies, roses, sunflowers, and lilies, all mingling together in a riot of colour and fragrance. Thomas stepped forward, feeling as though he had entered a dream. He wandered among the blossoms, marvelling at their beauty. As he bent down to sniff a particularly fragrant rose, he heard something that made him freeze. It was a whisper, soft and melodic, coming from the flower itself. "Welcome, Thomas," the rose said in a voice as gentle as a summer breeze. Thomas blinked in astonishment. You can talk?" he stammered. The rose seemed to nod. "Yes, we all can. This garden is enchanted, and we have been waiting for you." "Waiting for me," Thomas echoed, his eyes wide with wonder. "Yes," came the chorus of voices from all around him. "We have many stories to tell, stories that will bring sweet dreams to those who listen." Thomas felt a thrill of excitement course through him. He had always loved stories, and the idea of hearing them from such magical sources filled him with joy. He sat down on a patch of soft grass, his eyes bright with anticipation. "Who will tell me the first story?" he asked, looking around at the flowers. A sunflower, its golden petals shining like the sun itself, spoke up. "I will," it said. "I have a tale of bravery and adventure, perfect for beginning your journey with us." Thomas leaned in closer, eager to hear every word. The garden seemed to hold its breath, the air thick with anticipation. The sunflower began its story, its voice clear and warm, weaving a tale that transported Thomas to a world of courage and heroism. As the story unfolded, Thomas felt himself becoming part of it, living the adventures alongside the characters. The sunflower spoke of a brave bumblebee, a hero who faced great dangers to save his hive from a terrible drought. The bee's courage and determination inspired Thomas, filling him with a sense of awe. When the story ended, Thomas sat back, a dreamy smile on his face. "That was amazing," he said. "Thank you." The sunflower bowed its head slightly. "There are many more stories to hear, Thomas. Each flower in this garden holds a tale, waiting to be shared." Thomas looked around, his heart swelling with gratitude and excitement. He knew he had found something truly special, a place where magic was real and stories came to life. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the garden, He promised himself he would return every day to listen and to learn. And so, Thomas's journey in the fairy flower garden began, with each step leading him deeper into a world of wonder and enchantment. The next morning, Thomas woke up with a sense of purpose. The memory of the enchanted garden and the sunflower's tale filled him with excitement. He hurried through his chores and set off towards the forest, eager to return to the magical place he had discovered. As he retraced his steps along the overgrown path, Thomas felt a familiar sense of wonder. The path seemed even more inviting today, the flowers and trees more vibrant, as if they too were eager for his return. He pushed through the thicket and stepped into the garden, where a chorus of voices greeted him. "Welcome back, Thomas!" The flowers chimed in unison, their petals shimmering in the morning light. Thomas smiled and took his place on the soft grass. "I'm ready for more stories," he said eagerly. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, and the flowers seemed to sway with anticipation. This time, a delicate rose spoke up, its voice soft and melodic. "I have a tale of compassion and kindness, a story about a gentle giant who lived in a secluded valley. Would you like to hear it?" Thomas nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, please." The rose began its story, painting a vivid picture of a lush, green valley where a giant named Thaddeus lived. Despite his enormous size, Thaddeus was known for his gentle nature and kind heart. He spent his days tending to the valley, helping the animals and plants thrive. One day, a group of villagers from a nearby town stumbled into the valley, lost and frightened. They had heard tales of a fearsome giant and expected the worst. But when Thaddeus appeared, they were astonished by his kindness. He offered them food and shelter, using his immense strength to help them rebuild their homes and farms. As the rose spoke, Thomas could see the story unfold in his mind's eye. He imagined Thaddeus, towering above the villagers, yet treating them with such care and compassion. The giant's gentle hands and warm smile won over the hearts of the villagers, and soon they came to see him as a friend and protector. The story continued, recounting the many ways Thaddeus helped the villagers, from lifting heavy stones to building bridges and even saving them from a flood. His kindness knew no bounds, and the villagers learned to look beyond appearances, valuing Thaddeus for his heart and deeds rather than his size. When the tale concluded, Thomas felt a deep sense of warmth and gratitude. "That was beautiful," he said, his eyes shining. "Thaddeus was amazing." The rose nodded gracefully. Indeed he was. Kindness and compassion can bridge the greatest divides and transform fear into friendship. Thomas looked around the garden, feeling a renewed sense of wonder. Each flower, with its unique story, offered a lesson that touched his heart. He realized that the garden was not just a place of beauty, but a source of wisdom and inspiration. As the day drew to a close, Thomas thanked the flowers and promised to return. He left the garden with a heart full of stories and a mind buzzing with thoughts. The path home seemed shorter, his steps lighter, as if the magic of the garden had imbued him with a sense of peace and joy. That night, as Thomas drifted off to sleep, he dreamt of the gentle giant and the enchanted garden. The stories had woven themselves into his dreams, bringing sweet and restful slumber. He knew that he had found a place of magic and wonder, a place where he belonged. The following morning, Thomas found himself hurrying through the forest once again. The stories from the garden had captured his heart, and he couldn't wait to hear more. As he stepped into the garden, the flowers greeted him with a symphony of soft, welcoming voices. "Welcome back, Thomas," they sang, their petals shimmering in the sunlight. Thomas settled down on the grass, eager for the next tale. "Who's going to tell me a story today?" he asked, looking around at the vibrant blooms. A bright daisy, its petals radiating warmth and light, spoke up. "I have a tale of courage and perseverance," it said. "It is the story of a brave bumblebee who faced great challenges to save his hive. Would you like to hear it?" Thomas nodded, his eyes wide with anticipation. "Yes, please." The daisy began its story, weaving a tale that transported Thomas to a world buzzing with life and adventure. The story was about a bumblebee named Balthazar, who lived in a hive nestled in a beautiful meadow. The bees in the hive were happy and industrious, working together to gather nectar and make honey. One summer, however, a terrible drought struck the meadow. The flowers withered, and the bees struggled to find enough nectar to sustain the hive. As the days grew hotter and the flowers scarcer, the bees began to lose hope. Balthazar, however, refused to give up. He was a small bee, but he had a big heart and an unwavering determination. He decided to embark on a journey to find a new source of nectar, a place where the flowers still bloomed. The daisy's voice was filled with excitement as it described Balthazar's journey. He flew across fields and forests, braving fierce winds and torrential rains. He faced many dangers, from predatory birds to treacherous spider webs, but he pressed on, driven by his love for his hive and his desire to save them. One day, as Balthazar flew over a distant valley, he saw a sight that filled him with joy. The valley was lush and green, filled with blooming flowers of every kind. It was a paradise, untouched by the drought. Balthazar knew he had found the answer to his prayers. He hurried back to his hive, guiding his fellow bees to the valley. The hive was saved, and the bees rejoiced, grateful for Balthazar's bravery and perseverance. The valley became their new home, a place where they could thrive and prosper. As the story ended, Thomas felt a surge of admiration for the brave bumblebee. "Balthazar was incredible," he said, his voice filled with awe. "He never gave up, no matter how hard things got." The daisy nodded, its petals swaying gently. "Courage and determination can overcome even the greatest obstacles," it said. Balthazar's story reminds us that no matter how small we are, we can achieve great things if we believe in ourselves and keep trying. Thomas looked around the garden, his heart filled with gratitude and inspiration. Each story he heard seemed to unlock a new piece of wisdom, a lesson that he could carry with him. He knew that the garden was not just a place of beauty and magic, but a source of strength and hope. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the garden, Thomas thanked the flowers and promised to return. He left with a heart full of stories and a mind buzzing with thoughts, eager to hear the next tale. That night, as he lay in bed, Thomas thought of Balthazar and his brave journey. The story had woven itself into his dreams, bringing sweet and restful slumber. He knew that he had found a place of magic and wonder, a place where he belonged. Thomas awoke the next morning with the first rays of sunlight filtering through his window. The excitement of returning to the garden and hearing another story quickened his steps as he made his way through the forest. When he finally arrived, The flowers swayed in the gentle breeze, their colours vibrant and inviting. "Good morning, Thomas," the flowers chorused, their voices like a sweet melody. Thomas settled down on the familiar patch of grass, his eyes alight with anticipation. "Who's going to tell me a story today?" he asked eagerly. A delicate rose, its petals a soft blush pink, spoke up with a voice that was both soothing and melodious. "I will tell you a tale of kindness and understanding," it said. "It is the story of a gentle giant named Thaddeus. Are you ready to hear it?" Thomas nodded, his heart swelling with excitement. "Yes, please." The rose began its story, painting a picture of a lush, green valley hidden away from the world. In this valley lived Thaddeus, a giant with a heart as big as his stature. Despite his enormous size, Thaddeus was known for his gentle nature. He spent his days tending to the valley, nurturing the plants and helping the animals. One day, a group of villagers from a nearby town found themselves lost and stumbled into Thaddeus's valley. They had heard terrifying tales of a fearsome giant who lived in the valley and were filled with fear. When Thaddeus approached them, they expected the worst. But instead of a monstrous beast, they found a kind and gentle soul. Thaddeus offered the villagers food and shelter, using his great strength to help them rebuild their homes and farms. He lifted heavy stones with ease, built bridges over streams, and even saved them from a dangerous flood. The villagers, who had initially been terrified of Thaddeus, came to see him as a friend and protector. As the rose spoke, Thomas could see the story unfold before his eyes. He imagined Thaddeus, towering over the villagers, yet treating them with the utmost care and kindness. The giant's gentle hands and warm smile won over the hearts of the villagers, teaching them to look beyond appearances and value the goodness within. The story continued, recounting the many acts of kindness Thaddeus performed. He helped the children with their chores, played gentle games with them, and shared stories of his own. The villagers learned to love Thaddeus, and the valley became a place of peace and harmony. When the tale concluded, Thomas felt a deep sense of warmth and gratitude. "Thaddeus was amazing," he said, his voice filled with admiration. He showed that kindness can change people's hearts. The rose nodded gracefully. "Indeed, Thomas. Thaddeus' story teaches us that true strength lies in kindness and compassion. No matter how different we may seem, we can always find common ground through understanding and love." Thomas looked around the garden, feeling a renewed sense of wonder. Each flower, with its unique story, offered a lesson that touched his heart. He realized that the garden was not just a place of beauty, but a source of wisdom and inspiration. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the garden, Thomas thanked the flowers and promised to return. He left with a heart full of stories and a mind buzzing with thoughts, eager to hear the next tale. That night, as he lay in bed, Thomas thought of Thaddeus and the gentle giant's valley. The story had woven itself into his dreams, bringing sweet and restful slumber. He knew that he had found a place of magic and wonder, a place where he belonged. The anticipation of another enchanting tale brought Thomas back to the garden the next morning with a spring in his step. As he stepped into the garden, the flowers seemed to glow even more brightly, as if they were reflecting his excitement. "Welcome, Thomas," the flowers sang, their voices harmonizing in a joyful chorus. Thomas settled down in his usual spot, his heart filled with eager curiosity. "Who will tell me a story today?" he asked, looking around at the vibrant blooms. A bright daisy, its petals shining like tiny suns, spoke up with a cheerful voice. "I have a tale of dreams and perseverance," it said. "It is the story of a firefly who wanted to light up the darkest night. Are you ready to hear it?" Thomas nodded, his eyes wide with anticipation. "Yes, please!" The daisy began its story, transporting Thomas to a world where the night was illuminated by the soft, gentle glow of countless fireflies. Among them was a small firefly named Lumi, who dreamt of shining brighter than any other. While the other fireflies were content with their modest light, Lumi wanted to bring light to the darkest corners of the forest. Every night, Lumi practiced flying higher and glowing brighter. She faced many challenges: bouts of strong wind, torrential rains, and the ever-present danger of predators. Yet her determination never wavered. She knew that her dream was worth pursuing, no matter how difficult the journey. One night, a terrible storm hit the forest. The wind howled, and the rain fell in torrents. The other fireflies hid, their lights flickering out one by one. But Lumi, filled with a sense of purpose, continued to glow. She flew through the storm, her tiny light cutting through the darkness like a beacon. As the daisy spoke, Thomas could see Lumi's struggle and bravery. He imagined the little firefly, her light a steadfast beacon in the raging storm. Lumi's unwavering spirit filled him with awe and admiration. The story continued, recounting how Lumi's light guided lost animals to safety and comforted the frightened creatures of the forest. Her courage and perseverance inspired the other fireflies to join her, and together they lit up the night with a brilliance that chased away the darkness. When the storm passed, the forest was aglow with the light of countless fireflies, all shining brighter than ever before. Lumi's dream had come true, not just for herself, but for the entire forest. Her perseverance had brought light and hope to all. As the story ended, Thomas felt a deep sense of inspiration. "Lumi was incredible," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "She never gave up, no matter how hard things got." The daisy nodded, its petals swaying gently. Lumi's story teaches us that dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them and the perseverance to never give up, even in the face of adversity. Thomas looked around the garden, his heart swelling with gratitude and wonder. Each story he heard seemed to unlock a new piece of wisdom, a lesson that he could carry with him. He knew that the garden was not just a place of beauty and magic, but a source of strength and hope. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the garden, Thomas thanked the flowers and promised to return. He left with a heart full of stories and a mind buzzing with thoughts, eager to hear the next tale. That night, as he lay in bed, Thomas thought of Lumi and her luminous journey. The story had woven itself into his dreams, bringing sweet and restful slumber. He knew that he had found a place of magic and wonder, a place where he belonged. As the days passed, Thomas became more enchanted with the garden and its stories. Every tale he heard filled him with wonder and a deeper appreciation for the magic around him. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the garden was bathed in the soft glow of twilight, Thomas returned for what felt like the most important visit yet. The flowers welcomed him with their usual warmth, but tonight there was an air of anticipation. The garden seemed to hold its breath, as if preparing for something extraordinary. Thomas settled down on the grass, sensing that this evening's story would be special. "Welcome back, Thomas," said a tall lily, its petals pure and white, glowing softly in the twilight. "Tonight, we will share with you the secret of our garden, a story that binds us all together. Are you ready?" Thomas's heart quickened. "Yes, I'm ready." The lily began its tale, its voice soothing and melodious. Long ago, this garden was created by a powerful sorceress named Seraphina. She was a guardian of dreams, and she planted these flowers with a special magic. Each flower held a story, and these stories had the power to bring peace and sweet dreams to all who listened. Thomas listened intently as the lily spoke of Seraphina's love for the garden and her desire to create a sanctuary of tranquility and wisdom. The flowers flourished under her care, each one blossoming with a unique tale. The garden became a place of refuge for those seeking solace and inspiration. "But there is more," the lily continued. "Seraphina knew that the garden needed a guardian, someone who would protect it and ensure that its stories were shared with those in need. She cast a spell that would choose a worthy guardian when the time was right." Thomas felt a shiver of anticipation run down his spine. "Who is the guardian?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The lily's petals shimmered with a soft light. "Thomas, the garden has chosen you. Your love for our stories and your kind heart have shown that you are worthy of this responsibility." Thomas's eyes widened in astonishment. "Me? But how? Why?" The flowers all around him swayed gently, their voices joining in harmony. "You have shown us that you understand the magic of stories and the power of dreams. You have a pure heart filled with wonder and kindness. The garden needs you to protect it and share its tales with the world." Thomas felt a mix of emotions: honor, responsibility, and a touch of fear. "What must I do?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. "Care for the garden," the lily said. "Protect it from harm, and ensure that its stories continue to bring joy and peace. You are now the guardian of the fairy flower garden, a role that comes with great responsibility, but also great reward." As the last light of day faded, the garden glowed softly, a testament to its magic and beauty. Thomas looked around, feeling a deep connection to this enchanted place. He knew that his life had changed forever, that he had been given a gift and a duty that he would cherish always. The flowers bowed their heads in a gesture of trust and gratitude. "We believe in you, Thomas. You are our guardian, and with you, the garden will thrive." Thomas nodded, his heart filled with determination and love. "I will protect this garden and share its stories. I promise." The garden seemed to sigh in relief, its magic settling around Thomas like a warm embrace. He left that night with a new sense of purpose, knowing that he was now part of something extraordinary. As he lay in bed, Thomas dreamt of the garden and its magical flowers. The stories and their wisdom wove through his dreams, bringing him peace and joy. He knew that he had found his place, a place where magic was real and stories came to life. Chapter 2: The Guardian of Dreams. The dawn of a new day found Thomas brimming with a sense of purpose. As he made his way to the enchanted garden, he felt a new bond with the magical place that had chosen him as its guardian. The air was crisp and filled with the scent of blooming flowers, and the path seemed to welcome him with open arms. When he entered the garden, The flowers swayed gently as if bowing in greeting. "Good morning, Thomas," they chorused, their voices like a sweet melody carried on the breeze. "Good morning," Thomas replied, a warm smile spreading across his face. "I'm ready to continue my duties as the guardian and to hear more of your wonderful stories." A beautiful lily, its petals glistening with morning dew, spoke up. "Today we have many tales to share, but first, let us show you how to care for the garden." Thomas followed the lily's instructions, learning to tend to the flowers with gentle hands and a loving heart. He watered the plants, pruned the leaves, and even sang to them, his voice blending with theirs in harmonious tunes. As he worked, he felt a deeper connection to the garden and its magical inhabitants. Once his tasks were complete, Thomas settled down on the grass, ready to listen to the next story. "Who will tell me a tale today?" he asked, looking around at the vibrant blooms. A delicate lily of the valley, its tiny bell-shaped flowers tinkling like soft chimes, spoke with a voice as gentle as a whisper. "I have a tale of enchantment and wonder," it said. "It is the story of a moonlit dance where fairies and woodland creatures gather to celebrate the magic of the night. Are you ready to hear it?" Thomas nodded eagerly. "Yes, please." The lily of the valley began its story, painting a vivid picture of a mystical glade, bathed in the silvery light of the full moon. The air was filled with the soft hum of nature and the twinkling glow of countless fireflies. It was a night of celebration, where fairies and woodland creatures came together in joyous harmony. In this magical glade, a young fairy named Luna led the dance. Her wings shimmered with iridescent hues, and her laughter was like the tinkling of crystal bells. She danced with grace and beauty, her movements mesmerizing all who watched. The animals and fairies joined in, their hearts lifted by the music and the magic of the night. As the lily of the valley spoke, Thomas could see the enchanting scene unfold before him. He imagined Luna twirling gracefully, her wings casting a kaleidoscope of colors, and the joy that radiated from the glade as the creatures danced together under the moon's gentle light. The story continued, describing how the night deepened and the dance grew more spirited. The magic in the air was palpable, filling everyone with a sense of wonder and delight. Luna's dance was not just a celebration. It was a reminder of the beauty and magic that existed in the world. A magic that could bring happiness and light even in the darkest of times. When the tale ended, Thomas felt a deep sense of awe and inspiration. "Luna's dance was beautiful," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "It shows how magic can bring joy and unite everyone." The lily of the valley nodded, its tiny bells swaying gently. "Indeed, Thomas, Luna's story teaches us that magic is all around us. And when we come together to celebrate it, we create moments of true enchantment." Thomas looked around the garden, his heart swelling with gratitude and wonder. Each story he heard seemed to unlock a new piece of wisdom, a lesson that he could carry with him. He knew that the garden was not just a place of beauty, but a source of inspiration and joy. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the garden, Thomas thanked the flowers and promised to return. He left with a heart full of stories and a mind buzzing with thoughts, eager to hear the next tale. That night, as he lay in bed, Thomas thought of Luna and her moonlit dance. The story had woven itself into his dreams, bringing sweet and restful slumber. He knew that he had found a place of magic and wonder, place where he belonged. Thomas awoke the next day with a heart full of excitement. He hurried through his morning routine, eager to return to the garden and hear more stories. The path through the forest felt familiar now, as if each step was guiding him to his magical destination. As he entered the garden, the flowers greeted him with their usual warmth. "Welcome back, Thomas," they sang, their voices a harmonious blend of joy. Thomas smiled and settled down on the grass. "I'm ready to hear more stories," he said eagerly. "Who will share their tale today?" A cheerful marigold, its petals a brilliant shade of orange, spoke up with a lively voice. "I have a tale of curiosity and transformation," it said. "It is the story of a caterpillar named Cassie, who embarks on a journey of discovery. Are you ready to hear it?" Thomas nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, please." The marigold began its story, painting a vivid picture of a lush garden filled with colourful flowers and buzzing insects. In this garden lived a curious caterpillar named Cassie. Unlike her fellow caterpillars, who were content to munch on leaves all day, Cassie was always exploring, eager to see the world beyond her little corner. One sunny morning, Cassie set off on an adventure. She crawled over rocks, around flowers, and under leaves, marveling at the beauty and diversity of the garden. As she ventured further, she encountered various creatures: a friendly ladybug, a busy ant, and a wise old snail, each sharing stories and lessons about the world. The marigold's voice was filled with excitement as it described Cassie's encounters. Thomas imagined the tiny caterpillar, her curiosity leading her to new experiences and friendships. Each creature Cassie met taught her something valuable, expanding her understanding and appreciation of the garden. The story continued, recounting how Cassie eventually felt a deep yearning within her. She realized that she wanted to see the garden from a new perspective, to experience life beyond the ground. With determination, she found a quiet spot and began to spin a cocoon, wrapping herself in a silken embrace. For days, Cassie remained in her cocoon, feeling a transformation take place. She dreamed of flying among the flowers, of feeling the wind beneath her wings. When she finally emerged, she was no longer a caterpillar but a beautiful butterfly, her wings shimmering with vibrant colours. As the marigold spoke, Thomas could see Cassie's transformation in his mind's eye. He imagined the joy and wonder she felt as she took to the skies, seeing the garden from above for the first time. Cassie's journey of discovery and transformation filled him with a sense of awe and inspiration. The story concluded with Cassie flying through the garden, her heart filled with gratitude and joy. She visited her old friends, sharing her new perspective and encouraging them to embrace change and growth. When the tale ended, Thomas felt a deep sense of inspiration. "Cassie's journey was amazing," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "She showed that curiosity and the willingness to embrace change can lead to incredible transformations." The marigold nodded, its petals swaying gently. "Indeed, Thomas. Cassie's story teaches us that growth and change are natural parts of life, and that embracing them can lead to wonderful new experiences and perspectives." Thomas looked around the garden, his heart swelling with gratitude and wonder. Each story he heard seemed to unlock a new piece of wisdom, a lesson that he could carry with him. He knew that the garden was not just a place of beauty, but a source of inspiration and joy. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the garden, Thomas thanked the flowers and promised to return. He left with a heart full of stories and a mind buzzing with thoughts, eager to hear the next tale. That night, as he lay in bed, Thomas thought of Cassie and her journey of transformation. The story had woven itself into his dreams, bringing sweet and restful slumber. He knew that he had found a place of magic and wonder, a place where he belonged. The next morning, Thomas felt a sense of excitement as he made his way back to the garden. Each visit filled him with new wisdom and wonder, and he couldn't wait to hear the next story. The path through the forest felt like an old friend now, guiding him to the place where magic lived. As he stepped into the garden, the flowers greeted him with their usual warmth. "Welcome back, Thomas," they chorused, their voices a sweet melody that filled the air. Thomas settled down on the grass, his heart filled with anticipation. "I'm ready for the next story," he said eagerly. "Who will share their tale today?" A cheerful marigold, its petals glowing with a vibrant orange hue, spoke up. "I have a tale of growth and wisdom," it said. "It is the story of a wise old oak tree and a young bird learning to fly. Are you ready to hear it?" Thomas nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, please." The marigold began its story, transporting Thomas to a serene forest where an ancient oak tree stood tall and proud. This oak tree had lived for centuries, its branches reaching out like welcoming arms and its leaves whispering secrets of the ages. Beneath its shade, a young bird named Pip was preparing for a big journey. Pip had always admired the oak tree, often sitting on its sturdy branches and listening to its tales of the forest. The oak tree had watched over Pip since he was just a fledgling, and now it was time for Pip to learn to fly. Pip was eager but also nervous about leaving the safety of the nest and venturing into the vast sky. The marigold's voice was filled with warmth as it described the bond between Pip and the oak tree. Thomas imagined the young bird, his tiny wings fluttering with anticipation and a touch of fear. The wise oak tree, with its deep voice, offered Pip words of encouragement and wisdom. "Trust yourself, Pip," the oak tree said. "You have grown strong and capable. The sky is vast, but it is also filled with wonder. Embrace your journey and know that you carry my wisdom with you." With the oak tree's guidance, Pip took a deep breath and spread his wings. He leaped from the branch, his heart pounding with excitement and trepidation. At first, his flight was wobbly, but with each flap of his wings, he gained confidence and grace. The forest watched in awe as Pip soared higher and higher, his spirit lifted by the oak tree's words. As the marigold spoke, Thomas could see Pip's journey in his mind's eye. He imagined the young bird, his wings gliding through the air, feeling the thrill of freedom and the joy of flight. Pip's determination and the oak tree's wisdom filled him with a sense of awe and inspiration. The story continued, recounting how Pip explored the forest from above, discovering new places and meeting new friends. He returned to the oak tree often, sharing his adventures and receiving more guidance. The oak tree's wisdom helped Pip navigate challenges and embrace the beauty of the world around him. When the tale concluded, Thomas felt a deep sense of inspiration. "Pip's journey was incredible," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "He showed that with courage and wisdom, we can overcome our fears and achieve great things." The marigold nodded, its petals swaying gently. "Indeed, Thomas. Pip's story teaches us that growth and wisdom come from embracing new experiences and trusting in ourselves and the guidance we receive. Thomas looked around the garden, his heart swelling with gratitude and wonder. Each story he heard seemed to unlock a new piece of wisdom, a lesson that he could carry with him. He knew that the garden was not just a place of beauty, but a source of strength and hope. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the garden, Thomas thanked the flowers and promised to return. He left with a heart full of stories and a mind buzzing with thoughts, eager to hear the next tale. That night, as he lay in bed, Thomas thought of Pip and his journey of growth and discovery. The story had woven itself into his dreams, bringing sweet and restful slumber. He knew that he had found a place of magic and wonder, a place where he belonged. Thomas returned to the garden the next day, filled with anticipation for another story. The flowers greeted him warmly, their colours vibrant in the morning light. "Welcome back, Thomas," they sang, their voices harmonizing in a joyful chorus. Thomas settled down on the grass, ready for the next tale. "Who will share their story today?" he asked, looking around at the blooming flowers. An ancient oak tree, its branches stretching high into the sky, spoke with a deep and resonant voice. "I will share a tale of wisdom and guidance," it said. "It is the story of a young bird named Pip, who learned the ways of the world with the help of a wise old oak. Are you ready to hear it?" Thomas nodded eagerly. "Yes, please." The oak tree began its story, painting a vivid picture of a lush forest where a wise old oak stood tall and strong. This oak tree had witnessed the passage of many seasons and had become a source of wisdom for all the creatures in the forest. Beneath its branches lived a young bird named Pip, who was full of curiosity and eager to learn. Pip admired the oak tree for its strength and wisdom. Every day he perched on the oak's branches, listening to its stories and learning from its vast knowledge. The oak tree taught Pip about the changing seasons, the importance of patience, and the value of understanding others. One spring morning, Pip approached the oak tree with a question that had been on his mind. "How do I find my place in the world?" he asked, his eyes filled with curiosity. The oak tree's leaves rustled gently in the breeze as it replied, "To find your place, you must first understand who you are and what you seek. Observe the world around you, learn from your experiences, and trust in the journey." With the oak tree's guidance, Pip set out to explore the forest. He observed the other creatures and their ways of life, learning from their actions and interactions. He watched the squirrels gathering nuts, the rabbits building burrows, and the deer grazing peacefully. Each encounter taught him something new about the world and his place within it. As the oak tree spoke, Thomas could see Pip's journey unfold before his eyes. He imagined the young bird, his heart filled with wonder as he explored the forest and discovered the interconnectedness of all living things. Pip's curiosity and the oak tree's wisdom filled him with a sense of awe and inspiration. The story continued, recounting how Pip faced challenges and uncertainties along the way. There were times when he felt lost and unsure, but he always returned to the oak tree for guidance. The oak tree's wisdom helped him navigate these challenges and find his way. One day, as Pip perched on the oak's branches, he realized that he had found his place. It was not a single location or role, but a sense of belonging and purpose that came from understanding and embracing the world around him. When the tale concluded, Thomas felt a deep sense of inspiration. "Pip's journey was incredible," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "He showed that wisdom and understanding can guide us through life's challenges." The oak tree nodded, its branches swaying gently. "Indeed, Thomas. Pip's story teaches us that true wisdom comes from observing the world, learning from our experiences, and seeking guidance when needed." Thomas looked around the garden, his heart swelling with gratitude and wonder. Each story he heard seemed to unlock a new piece of wisdom, a lesson that he could carry with him. He knew that the garden was not just a place of beauty, but a source of strength and hope. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the garden, Thomas thanked the oak tree and promised to return. He left with a heart full of stories and a mind buzzing with thoughts, eager to hear the next tale. That night, as he lay in bed, Thomas thought of Pip and his journey of wisdom and discovery. The story had woven itself into his dreams, bringing sweet and restful slumber. He knew that he had found a place of magic and wonder, a place where he belonged. The following day, Thomas hurried to the garden with a heart full of anticipation. Each story he had heard filled him with new insights and wonder, and he couldn't wait to discover the next tale. The garden welcomed him with open arms, its flowers swaying gently in the breeze. "Welcome back, Thomas," they sang, their voices a sweet and harmonious melody. Thomas settled down on the grass, eager to hear the next story. "Who will share their tale today?" he asked, looking around at the vibrant blooms. A fragrant jasmine, its white petals glowing softly in the sunlight, spoke up with a gentle voice. "I have a tale of hope and dreams," it said. "It is the story of a starry night where a young girl makes a wish that changes her life forever. Are you ready to hear it?" Thomas nodded, his eyes wide with anticipation. "Yes, please." The jasmine began its story, painting a vivid picture of a small village nestled in a valley. In this village lived a young girl named Elara, who was known for her kind heart and vivid imagination. Elara loved to gaze at the stars, dreaming of distant worlds and endless possibilities. One clear night, when the sky was a tapestry of twinkling stars, Elara made her way to her favorite hill. She sat down on the soft grass and looked up at the sky, her heart filled with wonder. She spotted a bright shooting star streaking across the heavens and closed her eyes, making a heartfelt wish. "I wish for a life filled with adventure and magic," she whispered, her voice carried away by the night breeze. As the jasmine spoke, Thomas imagined Elara's earnest face, her eyes closed tightly as she made her wish. The beauty of the starry night and the hope in Elara's heart filled him with a sense of awe and inspiration. The story continued, describing how Elara's wish set off a series of magical events. The next morning, she awoke to find a glowing, ethereal creature at her window. A tiny, luminous fairy named Stardust. Stardust had heard Elara's wish and had come to guide her on a journey beyond her wildest dreams. With Stardust by her side, Elara embarked on an adventure that took her to enchanted forests, sparkling lakes, and ancient castles. She met talking animals, wise old wizards, and friendly giants, each encounter teaching her valuable lessons about courage, kindness, and the magic within herself. As the jasmine narrated, Thomas could see Elara's journey unfold before him. He imagined the wonders she encountered and the friends she made along the way. Ilara's adventures, filled with both challenges and triumphs, captivated his imagination. One day, after many adventures, Ilara and Stardust found themselves back on the hill where her journey began. The night sky was once again filled with stars, and Ilara felt a deep sense of fulfillment and joy. She realized that her wish had come true in ways she had never imagined. When the tale concluded, Thomas felt a deep sense of inspiration and hope. Ilara's journey was magical, he said, his voice filled with admiration. She showed that dreams can come true if we believe in them and embrace the magic around us. The jasmine nodded, its petals swaying gently. Indeed, Thomas. Ilara's story teaches us that hope and dreams have the power to transform our lives and bring us to places of wonder and enchantment. Thomas looked around the garden, his heart swelling with gratitude and wonder. Each story he heard seemed to unlock a new piece of wisdom, a lesson that he could carry with him. He knew that the garden was not just a place of beauty, but a source of strength and hope. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the garden, Thomas thanked the jasmine and promised to return. He left with a heart full of stories and a mind buzzing with thoughts, eager to hear the next tale. That night, as he lay in bed, Thomas thought of Ilara and her starry night wish. The story had woven itself into his dreams, bringing sweet and restful slumber. He knew that he had found a place of magic and wonder, a place where he belonged. As the days passed, Thomas knew that his time in the garden was coming to an end. Each visit had filled him with stories and wisdom, and he had grown deeply connected to the magical place. On this particular morning, there was a bittersweet feeling in the air as he made his way through the forest to the garden. When he entered, the flowers greeted him warmly, their colours even more vibrant than usual. "Welcome back, Thomas," they sang, their voices filled with a mix of joy and melancholy. Thomas settled down on the grass, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and love for the garden. "I know this is my last visit for now," he said softly. "I want to thank you all for the wonderful stories and the wisdom you've shared with me." A beautiful rose, its petals a deep crimson, spoke up with a gentle voice. "Thomas, you have been a wonderful guardian. We have one last story to share with you, a story that will remind you of the magic and beauty of this garden wherever you go." Thomas nodded, his heart filled with anticipation. "I would love to hear it." The rose began its story, painting a picture of a young girl named Lily who discovered a hidden garden much like Thomas had. This garden was filled with talking flowers, each with its own tale to tell. Lily spent her days in the garden, listening to the stories and learning from the wisdom of the flowers. One day, the garden told Lily that it was time for her to move on and share the magic and stories she had learned with the world. Though sad to leave, Lily understood that the garden's magic was meant to be shared, and she carried its stories in her heart as she embarked on new adventures. As the rose spoke, Thomas could see Lily's journey reflected in his own. He imagined her stepping out into the world, filled with the garden's magic and wisdom, ready to share it with others. Lily's courage and love for the garden filled him with a sense of purpose and hope. The story continued, describing how Lily's life was enriched by the lessons she had learned. She touched the lives of many people, sharing the garden's stories and spreading its magic far and wide. The garden's wisdom helped her navigate challenges and brought joy to all who heard its tales. When the tale concluded, Thomas felt a deep sense of inspiration and resolve. "Lily's journey was beautiful," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "She showed that the magic of the garden can touch the hearts of many people." The rose nodded, its petals swaying gently. "Indeed, Thomas. Lily's story teaches us that the magic and wisdom of this garden are not meant to stay hidden. They are meant to be shared, bringing light and joy to the world." Thomas looked around the garden, his heart swelling with gratitude and love. He knew that although his visits to the garden were ending, the stories and wisdom he had gained would stay with him forever. He felt a deep connection to the garden and a responsibility to share its magic with others. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the garden, Thomas stood up and thanked the flowers one last time. "I promise to carry your stories with me and share them with the world," he said, his voice filled with emotion. The flowers bowed their heads in a gesture of trust and gratitude. "We believe in you, Thomas. You are our guardian, and with you the magic of this garden will thrive." Thomas left the garden with a heart full of stories and a mind buzzing with thoughts. He knew that he had been given a gift and a duty that he would cherish always. As he walked through the forest, he felt the magic of the garden surrounding him, guiding his steps. That night, as he lay in bed, Thomas thought of Lily and her journey. The story had woven itself into his dreams, bringing sweet and restful slumber. He knew that he had found a place of magic and wonder, a place where he belonged, and he was ready to share its beauty with the world.